Doncic is awesome. He's a generational talent, one of the best players in the world. You don't trade guys like that. And if you're going to do something that crazy, you've got to make sure that you open it up and get as much in return as possible, namely in the form of young assets, draft picks, so you can restock your cupboard and rebuild your team. But they didn't do that. Unbelievable. So the trade deadline's coming up tomorrow. The Trailblazers, of course, rumored with a number of different teams. And the reason why, it's pretty simple. The Blazers, thanks to Joe Cronin, have put themselves in a position to where they have a lot of assets to work with. In the form of draft picks, they've got, players on the roster that could be desired by contenders who are out there. They've got tools to work with. It doesn't mean that they're going to do anything, but they have positioned themselves to be active. And what I like about their position right now, with the deadline coming up in a little less than 24 hours, is that there's no urgency to have to make something happen right now. Now, they can do it if they want, but they're under the luxury tax. They can sit back and wait and see if there's a deal that comes up that makes sense in terms of the return they're going to get, or they can sit, wait, be patient, and then execute some of these deals during the summertime. And this could become a situation like we saw with Denny Avdia, where Joe is discussing multiple deals with multiple teams right now, but because it's hard to get things done in season before the deadline, those deals that are being discussed today, like the Avdia deal, could be revisited come summertime as we get around the draft and free agency. So just keep that in mind if nothing goes down. I think there are a couple of pressing issues. The Blazers have got to make a decision on how they want to handle the two-way players in Sidi Sissoko and Caleb Love. Both guys have been very productive for the team, with multiple rotation guys out of the lineup for a significant, period of time. And so both of them could be very helpful. So are they going to make an adjustment? If they do, then they're going to have to let one or two players go to create the roster space available for those two guys to be converted and become full-time players. Other than that, as I mentioned yesterday, I had a conversation with a couple of guys that I respect who cover the league outside of Portland, and I asked both of them what they thought about Giannis. Is he going to get moved before the deadline? Will it happen during the summer? And they both had really a similar answer. They think it's a 50-50 that it could happen at the deadline, but both of them leaned summertime because it's easier to get deals done of that magnitude during the summer. And the reason why is that teams are still adjusting to the new CBA. The economic conditions in the NBA are stringent, and there's a lot of teams who are nervous about that. Also, the other thing that was told to me is that teams are also very concerned, and I would put Milwaukee in this group, when they're going to make a deal that involves a big-time player. They want to make sure that they get it right and get a proper package in return so they don't get the scrutiny that Nico Harrison got when he made that deal for Luka. They don't want to be known as Nico Harrison, essentially. They don't want to make a deal that's going to be one of the worst in history. So we'll see what happens. Now, with Giannis, this is where I stand on Giannis. I know a lot of Blazer fans would be excited to get Giannis. I'm not against it, but I am against giving up your future assets and, multiple young players to get Giannis only because of his age. He's 30 plus now. What is he, 31? And he might still be in his prime. But I think you're getting Giannis at the tail end of that, and then we know what happens with stars once they enter into their early 30s and beyond. It usually goes downhill. Right now, the Blazers' star is very simple. It's Denny Avdia, and they need to do whatever they can to build and facilitate the team around him. Denny Avdia is great. He's an all-star. They struck it rich on that trade with Washington. How dumb are the Wizards, by the way? They obviously have no clue of what they're doing. They had no idea what they had. And they had one of the best players in the NBA on a team-friendly contract. And they got rid of him because they were looking to tank. So I like where the Blazers are at. We'll see what happens. But join me tomorrow 3 to 6 for the complete breakdown. Now, coming up on the show today with Super Bowl 60 coming up on Sunday, Hugh Millen, who is a former NFL quarterback. He was a quarterback for the Washington Huskies. He's down covering the Super Bowl right now. He's going to join the show at 3:20, and we'll get his take on the matchup. I know what everyone thinks about the Seahawks. They have the multiple pathways to victory. They've got the defense, which has been dynamite throughout the year. Sam Darnold's coming off his best game of the season, and their special teams has been solid. And I would agree that they have more pathways to victory on Sunday. But I want to know what Hugh Millen is concerned about when he looks at the Patriots. What are the things that concern him? What areas of the game do the Patriots match up well? So Hugh Millen will join us. I'm also going to relive. He supplied me with one of my favorite memories as a sports fan. He was a backup for John Elway during the 1994 season with the Broncos and helped author a overtime victory in Kansas City against the Chiefs when they were coached by Marty Schottenheimer. And I just think it's great to be able to talk to guys who were a part of your little soundtrack in your younger days as a sports fan. So Heumann will come up at 3:20. Alex Brink, our college football and NFL insider, former Coug quarterback, coming up at 4:20, and we'll get his entire take. We didn't get his prediction last week. We just got his initial thoughts on the matchup, and now we're going to dive in deep with Alex. And then at 5:20, Michael Holton will be in studio for Holton on Hoops. Also, I was very happy to find out that I've got a good friend of mine. I would consider him a radio junkie like me. And now he's in Denver working for a classic station, one of our sister stations, 850 KOA, Dylan Barashon. I first started working with him back at the Fan. Back when I first got into radio, we became friends, and we've stayed connected throughout the course of time. And so he's going to come on the show, and we'll get a chance to talk some sports. And the crazy part is I ran into him. He was in the hallway before I came in studio. You know, my brother passed away last month. At the age of 53. I asked him why he was in town and how long he was going to be here. He said he was on bereavement leave. He just lost his sister, who was 38. I had no idea. And like myself, he only had one sibling. And so now he and I are in the same boat. So we'll talk about that and that process, but also talk about the Blazers. He supplied me some classic Trailblazer audio that we're going to play from the television broadcast after the Blazers won the championship. And we'll talk some hoops because he's a big Blazer fan, which I respect. Telephone number is 503-248-0620. You can reach out to me on the Rip City Radio text line at 88528, 88528. And I will keep you up to date on anything else that takes place around the NBA with the deadline coming up tomorrow. And we'll see how things shake out. Now, in regard to the game last night, I'll just be honest with you. You know, of all the games this year, I've been very forgiving with the Trailblazers because I think what they've been able to do for a large portion of the season with so many guys out of the lineup is being able to manufacture wins and bring guys in like the two-way guys, Sissoko and Love, and find success. And the way Donovan Clingan has stepped up in year number 2, and the way Denny Avdia has been the leader and carried so much of the responsibility on his shoulders. It's been great. And they pushed themselves, got all the way back to 500 and one game above, but now they've lost 6 straight. But last night was a game against the Suns where I was just disappointed in the effort. I thought their defense was garbage. I thought the Suns, after the initial barrage of three-pointers that the Blazers hit in the first quarter when they built a 19-point lead, the Suns took complete control. And I don't know what's going on with Donovan Clingan, but coming off that game against Cleveland when he got lit up by Jared Allen, who had a career game with 40 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, and no turnovers, we saw him get lit up again. And teams are going to attack him. And by the way, I hate drop coverage for the record. If your bigs are in drop coverage, you can assume I don't like what you're doing. But that's what happens with some of the bigs that we see, these more antiquated centers in the game. Because of the way the game is played now in space, teams will attack your bigs because they don't believe that they have the foot speed to be able to get out and cover. And so the Blazers struggle with their drop coverage. Robert Williams got more time in the second half as they're trying to adjust defensively. And I just didn't like the effort on that end. Too many easy buckets, too many layups and dunks like we saw on Sunday. And the game was just too easy for Phoenix. Now, I will also say that if you watch their offense, Drew Holiday had a bad game too. I understand he was off for a couple of games, but the 5 turnovers were not helpful. So Holiday wasn't good. Clingan was particularly bad. And the team, without Denny on the floor, they just don't have an identity. He's so important and so impactful to everything he does, especially when he's got the ball in his hands, that guys look lost without him. Jeremy Grant looked like he was pressing on the attack. You know, I know that people don't want to say this because they don't want to be disrespectful to other guys on the team. This team needs Denny Avdia. He is by far their best player. He's by far the most important player. And everything, he is the straw that stirs the Blazers' drink. And without him, for an extended period of time, they just don't have a chance because he's that good. And that's a good thing. You want to have a player like that. But they looked lost last night without their identity on offense because Denny Avdia makes things happen. Now, the good thing is he's not going to be out much longer. He could play right now if he wanted to. I just think they're trying to make sure that back is right for the stretch run. And I'm going to be honest with you, even though they've lost 6 straight, I'd probably keep him out this back-to-back coming up on Friday and Saturday. Keep him out. Make sure he's 100%. Get him at least a game before the All-Star game. And then that way, when he comes back for the stretch run, he'll be fine. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I love Denny Avdia, and he is that important. And the Wizards are dumb, and I'm thankful because the Blazers got a star player. So that's where they're at. That defense last night was garbage. It's like, what were you doing? I do like the way that Vit Krejci looked, though. He made a three. You could tell he was trying to figure things out because he's new to the team, and he's still learning their coverages and how they want to attack on offense. But he knows how to get to his spot, and he's going to be a big-time three-point shooter for him. And I think the Blazers, I think they were 8 of 15 from three in the first quarter, 5 of 22 in the second half. And the Suns for the game were 20 of 41. They shot well. They shot much better than 50% from the floor, but they were almost 50% on 20 makes from three. And that's coming off the game on Sunday when they allowed the Cavs to have 41 assists on 50 made field goals. You do that and allow a team to do that when your defense is not getting the job done. So they just need to get their guys right, get everyone on the floor together, and then we can see them take off. The other good news is Scoot Henderson, I think he's going to make his debut. It's going to be this weekend. So it's either going to be against Memphis on Friday or Memphis on Saturday. But it's going to be important for him to get back on the floor. And then we'll have more guys, Denny, Scoot, other guys on the floor that can help direct the offense and take some of the pressure off of Denny. All right, coming up next, Hugh Millen, former college and NFL quarterback. He's down in Santa Clara. We'll get his take on the Super Bowl. What concerns him with the Patriots? We'll find out next. Well, it's pretty simple. When you are one of the individuals that provide me with some of the greatest sports memories of my life, you'll always have a special place in my heart. Our next guest is one of those guys, former quarterback for the University of Washington, former NFL quarterback, and most importantly, a Denver Bronco. He's in Santa Clara getting ready for Super Bowl 60. Hugh Millen is back on the Rip City Drive. Hugh, good afternoon. Thanks for the time.
Oh, you bet. It's great to be with you guys.
Oh, it's so great to talk with you. I want to know this. I understand that the Seahawks, on paper, they look like they have more pathways to victory on Sunday with the way that Sam Darnold's playing, their defense, the special teams. Like, I think they're a complete football team. But I want to know from you, when you look at the Patriots, what are some of the things that they do that concern you?
Well, I would start with their lineup, their defensive tackles. I mean, they've got a couple guys that can really move. For example, Christian Barmore, he's second in the league for defensive tackles with pressures. He has 61 now. All Seahawks fans, they think Leonard Williams is, an NFL All-Pro level. He only had 49. So they've got a couple guys in the middle of the defensive line that can really push things around. Particularly, I think Seattle's got a very deep team, but of their 22 starters, in my opinion, Anthony Bradford, the right guard, is probably the biggest question mark, biggest concern, probably the biggest liability. And I think there's a way to really attack inside with power. Jalen Sandell, the Seahawks center, is an extremely good athlete by center standards, but not a great powerful guy. Like he'd win the obstacle race against other centers, but he would lose the keg toss over the pole bar. So I think there's some matchup issues that potentially concern Seattle.
We're talking with Hugh Millen here on the Rip City Drive. Now, with Drake May in year number 2, MVP candidate, he's played terrific. What are your thoughts on his progression from year 1 to year 2, and what do you think's made him special this year?
Well, I think having Josh McDaniel is a real boon to him, recognizes his strengths. He's a real good athlete. He's got the younger brother of 3 guys. 2 guys played at basketball at North Carolina. The third brother pitched at Florida, won a national championship. His dad was a quarterback in the NFL. He's got athleticism running all through his bones. He had 101 rushes, of which he had 61 scrambles, and 18 of them were 10 yards or more. To put that into perspective, Lamar Jackson in his entire career has only had 2 seasons where he's had more than 18, and Kyler Murray has never had a single season where he's had 18. So he's a better athlete than you might think. He's going to run for first downs, and then he throws the football down the field. He's got 35 go routes, completions. To put that into perspective, Sam Darnold only has 14, and so not touchdowns. I'm sorry, completions. And so at any event, yeah, these stats kind of add up. But you watch the tape and you see that Drake May was a guy that was kind of chasing Sam Darnold for a very vital statistic, which is yards per dropback. We all know yards per attempt. Then we know net yards per attempt, which includes sack. Yards per dropback includes your passes, obviously, your sacks, but also your scrambles. And yards per dropback, Sam Darnold was number 1 in the NFL all through the season, and at the very end, Drake May nipped him. So this Super Bowl features the top 2 guys in yards per dropback. None of us as fans want to watch a Charlie checkdown quarterback throwing checkdowns. We want to see the ball pushed down the field. That's what these guys have done. And I've run correlation numbers. The correlation numbers for winning with that particular stat are off the charts, at or near the top of all quarterback statistics. So you've got to be aware of his ability to push the ball down the field, and as a good athlete, to be able to scramble for first downs.
We're talking with Hugh Millen, former Huskies quarterback, 10 years in the NFL here on the Rip City Drive. All right, so Sam Darnold arrives in town, having a terrific year for the Seahawks. What's something that you've learned about Sam throughout the course of the year that maybe you didn't know before he arrived in town?
Well, I thought he was pretty unflappable. I think he just has an even keel personality. I was a journeyman in the NFL, bounced around, but I backed up 3 Hall of Famers in Dan Marino, Troy Aikman, and John Elway, and then 3 additional Pro Bowl guys, including the Ducks own Chris Miller, a good friend of mine. And so just kind of watching these great quarterbacks, you see the different personality. And I think Darnold, what's been pivotal is here he had the Seahawks kind of had a transformation the last month where they dropped off in their passing numbers. They picked up in their running numbers. But for the majority of the year, they were depending on Darnold in the big plays, particularly out of play action, which is hard when you turn the back to the defense, turn and locate. So they were getting a lot of big plays. They go down and lose the Rams, and Darnold has 4 interceptions. And his temperament about it, he says, yeah, I lost the game. I'm the reason why we lost. But Mike McDonald, he preached, hey, we're telling our quarterback, just let it rip. And in the NFC Championship game, he was asked, what one word describes to you Sam Darnold's performance? Of course, arguably the best game of his life. And McDonald didn't hesitate. He goes, fearless. So they are cultivating this aggression. A lot of people are saying, okay, there's too many turnovers. Well, he had 20 turnovers. He had 19 turnover-worthy plays in the eyes of Pro Football Focus. The average in that is 71%. He had, meaning if you have 20 turnover-worthy plays, you're probably going to have 14 turnovers. Sam Darnold was the other way around. He had 19 turnover-worthy plays, which resulted in 20 turnover-worthy plays, and only Jared Goff was more unlucky. So if you go by the averages, most quarterbacks, he'd have been around 13, 14 turnovers, and nobody would be talking about it. We'd say he's middle of the road in turnovers. He's producing all these big plays. The juice is worth the squeeze. It's kind of like in baseball. If a guy has a high slugging percentage, he's hitting a lot of doubles and home runs, but the strikeouts are more than you want, you say, well, I don't want to back off on his strikeouts. We might lose all the doubles and the home runs. So I think there's been that mentality about Darnold, but he has just kind of been a steady Eddie and very accountable. And so I've learned that about his personality. There's a certain even keel to his temperament.
We're talking with Hugh Millen. I appreciate that breakdown. How important do you think the run game in the Super Bowl this Sunday will be for both teams? Meaning, is it likely that whoever's able to establish the run and provide balance in the offense is going to have a good pathway to victory? How do you see that?
Well, I think the running game is always where defensive coordinators look. They say, hey, if we can stop the running game, then we can shrink the playbook on third down. So, and get into favorable situations, kind of like in a pitch count in baseball. There's my second baseball reference. So I think it's always going to be important. I think what's interesting to me is as I mentioned, arguably the 2 best players in the front 7 for the Patriots are their 2 defensive tackles. Now, they got a real good secondary, highlighted by Christian Gonzalez, the Duck. We all know that, and there's some thoughts about him. But those defensive tackles bring to mind this. If you look at how Seattle, they had a 4-game stretch right before the NFC Championship game where they averaged 172 yards rushing, and they were all tightly dispersed. There wasn't one outlier. They were all right around that range. And in that, they had different game plans. For example, against the 49ers, they start off, they run the stretch on the first play of the game. They run outside zone, and they're trying to run wide on 85% of the plays early on, and they really were trying to get to the perimeter. Then against the Rams, they were running inside zone and what's called duo. They were trying to run in between the tackles. I think that the Seahawks are going to be better served to have more of a 49er game plan where they're trying to get wide, run away from those defensive tackles, run those outside zones, as opposed to what we saw against the Rams where they're trying to run. I think it's just there's too much power in the middle of that Patriot line. And then as for Seattle against the Patriots running game, that has been the most consistent component of Seattle throughout the year. They've been great stopping the run. nearly every game. And so I will be very surprised if the Patriots are able to run with any consequence.
All right, that's great. Now, with their coaching, you mentioned Josh McDaniels as an offensive coordinator. There are a few guys who have more playoff experience than he does. And Mike Vrabel, one of the best game managers in the NFL. How much of a challenge will that be for Mike McDonald and his staff as they get ready for those two guys?
You're saying which ones?
Well, how much of a challenge
I missed it.
will it be for the Seahawks coaching staff? I mean, when you're game planning against guys like McDaniels, who has a lot of experience as an offensive coordinator in the playoffs, and then, of course, Mike Vrabel, who's a great game manager.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry. I'm at Super Bowl media row, and the Wi-Fi is a little fuzzy and the cell service, so I apologize.
No, you're doing a great job. You're killing it. You're absolutely killing it right now, Hugh.
Well, it's quite a spectacle down here, and so here's the thing about Mike McDonald. I just ran into, for example, Mac Jones, the backup quarterback for the 49ers, and so he was privy to the meetings, and I know Mac a little bit because I used to play for the Patriots, and we've crossed paths a few times. So we're visiting, and I said, like, all right, tell me something I don't know about the Seahawks defense, and he says, well, they look simple, but they're just so well coached and so sound. And what I have now, that conversation took place with me about an hour ago, and then we talked about some other guys, but he says you just can't get the big play on them. They know. And what I have talked about on KJR in Seattle is going back to his time when McDonald was the defensive coordinator at Baltimore. Seattle in 2023 went out to Baltimore and played them. And Mike McDonald and that Baltimore Raven defense just handed the Seahawks their tails. Geno Smith was just, look up the score. It was something like 37-3 or just something pathetic. And I remember doing that Monday show after having studied the tape. And I said, this defense, this Raven defense, at the time having no idea that I was talking about the future Seattle Seahawks head coach. I was just saying this Mike McDonald, who, was just coaching at Michigan, young guy, 36 years old. He coaches zone defense so well that everybody, they tied to a string. It's like, in foosball, when all three defenders kind of move at one point when you're playing foosball.
Yes.
They play defense like they're on foosball rods. They know exactly where their help is to the inside to the outside. They know they don't bite on stuff in front of them. You throw the cheese up in front of them. Most hook zone defenders, which kind of resemble a second baseman or shortstop, if you're looking at an infield and outside, you run a shallow cross in front of them. Most guys will jump, and then you get the dig route in behind them. The Seahawks are so well coached on so many levels. It's a complex defense. They make adjustments on the fly with motion and shifts. DeMarcus Lawrence, who Seattle acquired from Dallas, who played 12 years in the NFL, he went on record. He said, you need a PhD to play in this defense. There's a complication to it, but if you keep getting the experience, you keep talking it through, then now everybody kind of gets it, particularly late in the year, and they're so well coached because they know they're tied to a string. They know where all the help is. And I would just conclude, you really have to lock in on this. If you play really good man-to-man defense, I'll just say, hey, good on you. Your cats are better than their cats. But when you play really good zone defense, like when you throw on the tape and watch this, the Seahawks, and as I mentioned, the Ravens before, you say, wow, that is really an accomplishment to be able to get everybody tied together. Seattle plays zone defense 80.4% of the time. 4 to 5 times you're going to get Seattle in a zone, and it's usually going to be a zone that has a too high structure preventing the big play, and then they have a front seven that they never get into base. They always have Nick Emenwari, the nickel in at the very least. They play a lot of dime, but at the very least they're playing a base front seven. They don't need an extra safety down in the box to stop the run, so because their front seven's good enough. And then so they're playing a too high structure where everybody knows where their help is, and then that leads to comments like what we heard from Mac Jones, or I heard from Mac on a conversation where he just says that you just can't get the big play because they're so well coached, and that's really perfectly summarized.
We're talking with Hugh Millen. All right, so do you like the Seahawks to win? How do you see it playing out?
Well, I would lean towards the Seahawks. I think it's going to potentially be tougher than some people think. I think I could envision Seattle going a quarter and a half, where they're having a trouble with the zone pressures that Mike Vrabel's liable to bring. The Patriots have gone from 27% blitz rate in the regular season up to 41%. Seattle, through the course of the season, has had times where they've been bogged down by that. Again, I think there's a way to attack the interior of Seattle's offensive line in that regard. So I could see a muddied up game. I would actually kind of like the under. I think it's at 45.5. Maybe it's changed a little, but
yes.
I think it's going to be a little muddier than some people think. I think if it's an over, if the points total gets to an over, I think Seattle definitely wins.
Okay,
I think Seattle probably wins if the point total is the under. But that's the opportunity for the upset for the Patriots is a muddy game, hits the under, maybe a turnover or two, whatever it is, some gaff, and Seattle's bogged down because of zone blitzes and the inability to run against those two defensive tackles. That would be the situation where I close my eyelids and I see the Patriots winning. Probably won't happen, but it's certainly well in the realm of possibility and feasibility.
I'm looking at the current total right now. It's still at 45.5, and the line has remained consistent or constant throughout the week at 4.5. Now, Hugh, before you go, can we please relive my favorite moment in your NFL career? Is it okay if we do that for a moment?
Oh boy! All right. Okay. I don't know if I'm getting set up.
No.
Here,
This is. I'm serious. I love the Broncos more than anything, and I grew up a Bronco fan. I'm a huge Bronco fan, and of course, you did back up John Elway. And we go back to 1994. You're playing a game at Kansas City. The Broncos are trying to make it 4 consecutive wins. Elway leaves the game at Arrowhead because of a knee injury, and in steps Hugh Millen to try and engineer a Bronco victory. Take a listen to this. Overtime, 3rd down and 17.
A little confusion between Milburn and Russell. Millen, how to get out of there. And now runs it. He's got a first down. He's to the Kansas City 45-yard line.
Yeah, how about that? A 20-plus run on 3rd and 17 with Derek Thomas chasing after you, and Jason Elam gets a field goal. Love it.
That's great. I have not heard that. I do remember that play. Did you notice how long it took that play-by-play?
Yes, it took a long time.
Like a 19-second. It took a long time. Do you want to know why? Because it took me a long time. You know how long it took me to go 20 yards? Are you kidding?
Oh, dude. You know what?
I could run right through the commercial break and on to the next segment on that run. Oh man,
Hugh, that was big time right there. I was so happy for you. But
I love it.
For the youngins out there,
bring it up.
For the youngins out there who don't know, how good was John Elway?
Well, he's I put him in the top 3 or maybe 4. I think Josh Allen is close to catching him. Josh Allen's going to have to win a Super Bowl, but you know he's unquestionably the most. Here's the thing about John Elway, and I know Mel Kiper agrees with this because he said so a couple months ago, last draft. If you had a time machine and you had every single number 1 overall draft, and if you picked up John Elway and you dropped him off in any other year, drop him off in 68, he goes number 1 over O.J. Simpson. Drop him off in the Troy Aikman draft, 89, he goes number 1. Drop him off in the Andrew Luck draft, he goes number 1. He is the number 1 of number 1s. And I've never had any football person dispute that claim. He was thought more highly of coming out of college at Stanford than any other player in the history of football. Now, it took him a while for him to live up to it, but nobody had the combination of beautiful athleticism. Nobody's ever thrown a football as with the velocity that he was capable of throwing. He had a big play mentality. He was just a special talent, and a real class competitor, and so glad that he got the 2 rings at the end of his career.
All right. I talked to Rich Moore from KJR in Seattle. Are you staying in the house with Softy and the rest of the game from KJR?
Are you kidding me? Like, is that a rhetorical? I'm saying at the Four Seasons,
Okay,
man.
good.
No, I'm not saying in the Animal House. But you mean you mean Kappa Yoda Row, the KJR fraternity? No, thanks. Would you want to go out after Softy ate a burrito? Would
No.
you want to go into the bathroom and share that?
Heck,
neither would I.
no. Hey, Hugh,
No.
I appreciate you, Hugh. I love you, and I appreciate you taking time and great insight, man. Enjoy the rest of the week and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Always great to be with you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that clip. That was a. You know how hard it is to find a clip from me that actually. That's like finding a treasure like at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh,
yeah,
dude.
Yeah, I'm surprised you found a good clip.
The best part
Good
is
to be with you. Enjoy.
the look
Go
on
Hawks.
Wade's face. Wade Phillips, you made him very happy.
it was fun. That was a fun play. I can count them on one hand.
All right, take care, Hugh.
Okay. All right. Be good.
There you go.
Hawks.
That's Hugh Millen. He likes the Hawks, but he's reasonable and understands how the Patriots could keep that game close. But he loves the under at 45.5. All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, good friend of mine is going to join me. Like me, he's a radio guy. Dylan Barashon from 850 KOA in Denver. And he shared some classic vintage Trailblazer audio they're going to play coming up next on the Rip City Drive. All right, this is a real pleasure for me. This gentleman and I have known each other for a long time. We're connected through radio, and we have remained close, and we message each other back and forth all the time, even though he's been in other parts of the country, and now he's in Denver working for one of our sister stations with iHeart, 850 KOA. So in a lot of ways, he's living my dream by being in the sunshine in Denver and getting a chance to be around Bronco games because those games are on KOA. It's Dylan Barashon in the studio. What's up, brother?
Hey, man.
Dude, it's so good to see you.
Dude, it's great to see you, Chad. Thanks for having space for me today.
You know what's awesome is that we all went, me, Travis, yourself. There's a lot of people now who have gone on to other jobs within radio. We were all stuck together at the same station under the thumb of Jason Swigard.
Do you remember the first time we really bonded? Do you remember that? Because I do, and if you don't, I can tell you the story.
All right, tell me the story.
Okay. So this would have been around 2006, right
Yes.
around the time that I started at this other sports station in the market, right? And the station was covering the high school football championship game, doing the play-by-play. I don't remember who was doing it, but you were doing sidelines. For
Yes, and I remember what happened.
Well, there's that. But prior to that, we all went down the night before. They stuck us up in a hotel in Eugene because the game, I think, was at Autzen.
It was.
And, we ended up getting stuck sharing a hotel room. And at first, you're like, I got to share my hotel room with this guy. And
Yeah.
Then, and then I had brought this really fancy AM radio because I always, at nighttime,
Yes.
you can hear stations from all over the place. I like to listen to KNBR to San Francisco on 680 here, in the Pacific Northwest. And I pulled this radio out and I was like, hey, and you knew exactly what that was. And that was the moment where it clicked for you and me. And I knew that we were going to be buddies going forward.
Dude, it's so great. I have been looking for, and you really are just like me, where I get great pleasure and have ever since I was young of being able to tune in different radio stations from different markets. And for years up here in the Portland area, if you wait until it's late enough, you can tune in and pick up Warrior games and Giant games on KNBR. And so for years, I was listening to John Miller and Tim Roy.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how clear it would come in all the way up in like Brush Prairie, Washington, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the science behind it, the Cliff Notes version is that when the sun goes down, the sun holds a lot of it kind of energizes the ionosphere, and that's where the AM radio waves bounce off. When the sun goes down, that doesn't happen, so they can just take off and travel great distances. So, yeah, a lot of midnight baseball replays on KNBR I'd listen to up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I think what it is for me is like I've always enjoyed, and I know a lot of people as they get older, they start to get into talk radio. And I love sports, but I can listen to any form of talk radio. I just have always enjoyed the engagement that my mind has to get into when I'm driving or sitting and listening. I like that theater of the mind where I have to picture in my own mind what they're talking about or the game that I'm listening to. I enjoy that whole process.
Oh, it's great, man. It's great. What's so interesting about sports play-by-play, I'm a big fan of old-time radio. Truly a radio geek,
Yes.
right? Like some of those old shows from the 1930s and the 40s. But sports play-by-play, like a Portland Trailblazer game, when you listen to Travis call a game, it's the only form of old-time radio that is still being produced today as modern content.
Yeah.
And so, and for the same reasons that I enjoy those old-time shows, it's engaging. It stimulates your mind all the more. Rather than hearing, tuning into the rock station and hearing "Don't Fear the Reaper" for the millionth time. You know what
exactly. I would love to find all episodes of the Green Hornet from back in the day and be able to have that.
They're probably on archive.org. There's a lot of old-time radio stuff for free on there.
I just think that's great. So I enjoy that, and I love the fact that you share that. How old were you when you got hooked into Rip City with the Blazers?
It would have been around 1990 during the finals run against Detroit.
Yeah.
I was 5-ish years old. I was occasionally sneaking in a listen to Bill Shomley on the radio when I wasn't supposed to be, and I remember watching the games with my dad. My dad's from Cleveland, Ohio originally, and that's Midwest sports is a real big deal out there. And so being out here, my dad was one of the original listeners of The Fan when they signed on way back in the day.
I remember
that. That was always part of it. And being that age, when you're 5, 6, 7, and the team in your city, the only team in your city is making runs at championships, it gets you hooked.
It really does. And that's what it was for me. I came out here. I've shared this story before, but it's 100% true. We had a family meeting in Colorado when I lived there, and my brother and I sat down at the table with my mom and dad, and they're like, what do you think about moving out to Portland? Because they've been out here to visit, and they wanted to give my brother and I a different taste of different parts of the country. And, of course, I hadn't traveled a lot. I was like 10 or 11 years old. But I did have a poster in my room that was like Sultans of Slam. and it had different guys: Dominique Wilkins, Gerald Wilkins, MJ, and one of the guys on that was Clyde Drexler.
Yeah.
And in my Chad mind at the age that I was, I thought, well, they got Clyde Drexler. It can't be that bad out there. So I gave a thumbs up and the nod that I would be willing to go.
Oh, and boy, Clyde was the man.
He was awesome.
He was the man out here for sure.
And those finals teams were phenomenal.
They were good. And, it taught you a valuable lesson as a little kid that sports is usually about disappointment and heartbreak.
Yeah. No, it prepares you, like we've seen with some of the videos of the Jet fans and these youngsters that are getting brought into bad sports teams like the Browns. It does prepare you for heartbreak and disappointment.
That was me. My dad, being from Cleveland, raised me as a Browns fan. I tell people it's a sick, twisted form of child abuse.
It is. And one of my good buddies, who you probably know, Bernie, who worked at radio for a long time, he grew up a Browns fan. He's been miserable his whole life because all that team has done is brought him disappointment.
I divorced him after the Deshaun Watson trade.
You're like, I'm out. Yeah,
Yep,
I'm out.
that was it.
I'm done.
Bridge too far.
All right, we'll come back. More with Dylan Baruchon. We got some classic vintage 77 television audio we're going to play for you, and we'll continue our discussion here on the Rip City Drive. Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's now 4 o'clock. The Trailblazers fall to the Suns last night. 6 straight losses for the Blazers. That is the longest losing streak on the season. They will get 2 days off, and they've got a back-to-back against the Memphis Grizzlies Friday and Saturday at Moda Center. Our coverage Friday will start with Blazers Game Day live from Moda with Chris Burkhardt at 5. NBA trade deadlines coming up tomorrow. Join the Rip City Drive 3 to 6. Chris Burkhardt will be in studio, as will Sean Hyken from the Rose Garden Report. We'll have all the latest from around the league and inside Rip City. Big news today. The Mavs have sent Anthony Davis along with guards Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum to the Wizards for Chris Middleton and others. Super Bowl 60 on Sunday. Hawks and Patriots. Seattle remains a 4.5-point favorite. The total at 45.5. Alex Brink will join me at 4:20. Michael Holton's going to be in studio at 5:20 for Holton on Hoops. And right now, Dylan Barashon hanging out with me on the Rip City Drive. All right, Dylan Barashon, good friend of mine from 850 KOA, is hanging out in town. We got our start together at one of the other stations in town. We were all at the Fan together when Jason Swigard was bossing us around, or at least he was me because I was an intern at the time. But we became friends and have stayed connected ever since then, which is terrific. And we both love radio, and we both love the Trailblazers. And he still listens and will reach out to me during the middle of a broadcast or whatever. And, you know, this team this year, like Denny Avdija is awesome. Like, I can't believe they got him. He's a legit budding superstar in the NBA, and they got him for nothing.
For peanuts.
Oh,
it's great. Thanks, Washington.
And you know what's great, too, about seeing the Blazers without Avdija in the lineup is you realize how good he really is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if the Blazers aren't, let's be real, they're not a championship level team yet. They're trending in that direction, maybe down the road, but you know, they're so much more watchable when Denny's on the floor. It's a lot tougher when he's out. I mean, the last 6 games have, kind of go to that point, I suppose.
Yeah. Love Denny. I love the young core, and I'm just excited to see what this group can do. I just want like a 4 to 5 week stretch of everyone healthy and available to see them be able to play the way that they intended to when the year began at that faster pace.
Yeah. And, the pieces are there. You know, they're putting the pieces together, and it's been so fun this year compared to the last 3 seasons,
Brutal basketball.
Gosh.
And as you and I know, and I have experience because the Broncos for multiple seasons were run by a trust. That's never as good of a situation as it is to have an owner with feet on the ground who's actively trying to make things happen. So I'm excited about the changeover to get Dundon in and see what things will take place.
Oh, yeah. Future is very bright, especially considering the fact that his other franchise, it's the Hurricanes, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not hockey bro, so
no,
I don't hold it against
me neither.
But it seems like he really wants to win. He spends the money to get the pieces out there, and if you look at the track record for them, it's impressive since he's taken over there. So I hope the same for Portland.
All right, we'll get to the classic Blazer audio in just a moment. I can't believe this. When I was talking with you, I did not realize that you had a family tragedy. Your sister, who was only 38 years old, passed away. How long ago was that?
About 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, very recently.
I mean, that's almost the same time frame that my brother passed away. So, like, was it December?
Yeah, right before Christmas.
So you and I just both lost our siblings in the month of December, and that was the only sibling I had, and she was the only sibling you had.
Yeah, it's not a fun club to be a part of.
No, it's not. And it was, you told me that yours was like with my brother Chris, he had cancer, so we knew what was coming, but you guys were caught off guard.
My sister went to bed and just never woke up. It was unexpected, certainly. So,
how close were you?
We were getting closer.
Yeah.
My sister and I were very different people growing up.
Yeah,
which
same
is
with my
often
brother
the
and I.
case
Yeah.
with siblings, And even as adults, we were very different people. But as we were getting older, we were starting to text a bit more, and we'd been texting back and forth quite a bit. Actually, we were working together on Christmas presents for my mom and dad, right?
Nice.
When she left this earth, and that's part of what is a real bummer about this is that, I could see things trending in this direction because I always wanted to have that cool sibling relationship, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure this is true of you, but you see your friends that are really close with their brothers and sisters. They go off and go to shows together. They travel together, stuff like that.
I never had that.
And neither did I. And I always was looking forward to maybe having something like that at some point. But,
I thought there was something like abnormal with me because everyone I knew who was around me at the time, they were tight, like close friends, best friends with their brother or sister. And I never had that. But then as I got older and started talking to more people, and they're like, no, it's okay. If your brother or your sister's not your best friend, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong. I mean, there's an age gap, 3 years with us, and we did have different interests, right?
2 years for me and my sister, so we were close in age.
But as he started to age like I did, we started to text more.
Yeah.
And I started to take more interest in the things that he would do. He was a photographer. And
so is my sister.
And he loved to be outdoors, and he was like that. And I was able to take him to a Blazer game once. He lived in Chicago for years, and so he liked Scottie Pippen. And this is when Scottie worked for the Blazers, so I got him to a press pass, and he was able to go back in the locker room and stuff. He thought that was cool. But I just wish, because he lived on the other side of the country, the only thing I regret is that I wish I would have made more of an effort to be with him physically.
I've
right?
had those feelings too, and also more of an effort just to communicate over the years. But you don't think about that in the time.
No,
and I've made some peace with that. It's like, look, this is how the relationship was. It's not like I have made peace with the fact that I loved my sister the best way I could figure out how to, right?
Yeah.
But I know that she knows that, and the same vice versa is true of that as well. So it sucks. What can you say?
Yeah.
But
well, I'm sorry for your loss. And I know exactly what you're going through. And I would say the hardest part for me right now is just seeing my parents broken up about it.
Yeah, my folks are having a hard time as well. Understandably so.
Yeah.
But, in some ways, I think this will bring the rest of us together. I've been able to talk to my folks every day.
That's great.
That's not usually how I am. I kind of don't like being on the phone a lot. Working in this business, if you've ever worked as a call screener, you don't want to be on the phone when you're not working.
No, it's a text business. I keep my ringer off, and people get mad at me sometimes because I just don't even see their call coming in half the time because I don't hear my phone ring. But I'm like, I have to keep my phone on silent because I'm in the studio all the time, and I can't have that thing going off.
Yeah, and you and I, when we communicate with quite a bit of frequency, but it's always through text. We just text each other. You know?
Which is great. And you send me a lot of great pictures and stuff. But, well, it sucks. So I guess the good thing is you, like I said, I can look back now. The process has forced me to go back in my mind. So I've been able to remember things I had forgotten about or get further detail in my mind on some of the things that he and I did do together that we enjoyed. And so I've enjoyed that process.
Well, and the other thing, too, is I've made the realization, part of the regret is that, like, I wish I'd made more of an effort to get to know my sister a bit more as an adult. But I've realized I can still do that. I can still connect with her. I can still get to know her through the things that she's left behind, you know. It's unfortunate I can't ask her any direct questions about it. But I can still find this way to connect with her. And so I'm planning on doing some of that moving forward.
All right. We have some great audio that I know a lot of Blazer fans out there will appreciate.
Do you want me to set this up?
Set this up, and then I will hit play.
Okay. So if you didn't know, the Portland Trailblazers won the NBA championship in 1977.
I heard
of course,
that.
Yeah, I heard a rumor about that once. Everybody knows that if you're in the city. I've never seen a place celebrate a 50 years past championship like this place does, and I love it.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. So anyway, I'm a collector of a lot of this type of memorabilia, specifically relating to broadcast history. Right. So like I make recordings of historic games if I know they're going to happen. Like when Barry Bonds broke the home run record, I made a recording of that.
Amazing.
But I collect that stuff. And I have a copy of the 77 finals that a guy that was in Portland at the time recorded onto his Betamax VCR. So
amazing.
I have that. And the day they won the championship, which was June the 5th, 1977, he rolled his Betamax on the game, but he also rolled his Betamax on the Coin TV 6 news report after the game that day. So we've all seen the clips of, the celebration in the locker room with Bill Walton and Jack Ramsey and those guys, but nobody else. This is not on YouTube. This isn't anywhere else, as far as I know. Channel 6 may not even have this in their archive. They did do a story about the game, and they sent a reporter out. I think it's Tana Lang is her name. and she was just doing a story about the winning, the Blazers winning the championship. So you get to hear some audio of fans reacting to the title as they're pouring out of the Coliseum, and it's a neat little snapshot of a moment in time.
As the record fans poured out of the Coliseum, Blazer Mania is about the only word that can describe what Portland basketball fans showed all week and what culminated with the most exciting thing that could happen, the NBA championship.
Russo! It's the greatest in the world! We have done it!
Fantastic! I can't believe it!
Oh, well, it was wonderful. Just marvelous.
Super duper. Great game, yeah! There was never a doubt.
It was just exciting, but we won. That was the important thing.
What did you think of the Blazer game?
Terrific. It was well worth it.
We drove. What did you think?
It was 7 years to come, and it's well worth it. Today was what we've all waited for.
While some fans bolstered their mania with a little celebrating liquid in the parking lot, others cooled themselves in the Coliseum fountain, all chanting what a few years back would have been the impossible dream: we're number one. Dancing in the streets hardly describes what hit downtown Portland as the mania spread. Streets that during the game looked like a graveyard, now alive with the craze that only a national championship can bring. That's Blazer Mania. Tana Lang, Channel 6 News.
There you go.
That's so good.
Well, I wanted to bring something in that you guys haven't heard before.
Yeah.
That's not on YouTube. It's not, that clip's not out there anywhere. And I thought it's such great audio. And I figured no better time to share that with the Rip City faithful than on your show this afternoon.
And the great thing is I've now got it saved in my archive. I just absolutely love that kind of stuff. And the best part is from the people I've talked to who were there, that's exactly what happened. When people spilled out of the Coliseum, there was all this excitement.
It was a party.
They didn't know what to do, so the party just spread around town.
Everywhere. That's what they say. People were running up and down Broadway Street with bottles of champagne, just pouring them on top of people.
What was your dad doing when that went down?
Well, my dad wasn't in Portland at the time.
Okay, he was in Cleveland.
He was actually, he might have been living in Colorado at that time. But either way, he was rooting for Dr. J. He was like, who's these Blazers in Portland, man? I wanted to see Dr. J. Well, because in fairness, I mean, Dr. J was the man. If you weren't from up here, like, that's who you would have been rooting for. It's it's like rooting for LeBron or Michael. I mean, he was so good. So yeah, I don't think he was all that impressed. I think the story goes after that happened, I think he just like went out and shot some hoops for a few minutes or something. He's like, whatever. Yeah,
it happens. We'll move on. What a great thing. And really, I mean, if you want to talk about Rip City and the importance of it, like, that's where it was born. Absolutely. And then after that title, the connection between team and community was formed and forged.
814 consecutive sellouts from 1976 until 1995.
Gosh, that's freaking awesome. All right, Dylan Barashon, my good friend in studio. Dude, thank you for coming by. I really enjoy our text communication and the love we share for radio and sports, but this was fun.
Hey, thanks for having space for me, and I hope
you're always welcome.
I hope your audience enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed being with you here this afternoon.
All right, we'll come back. Alex Brink will join us. Former Cougar will get his take on the Super Bowl, and we'll get his prediction on how it's going to shake out here on the Rip City Drive. Well, I'm certainly thrilled to be able to talk Super Bowl with Alex Brink, but the sad part is this is the final football game of the season, and then we have to go into the offseason and wait another 6 months or so before football season hits us again. He's a former Washington State Cougar, our college football and NFL insider. He's with E4 Sports, and he's back. Alex, my man, thank you for your time, buddy.
Happy to be here, man. Super Bowl week.
Oh, I love it. I was going to ask you this. You never started in a Super Bowl, but you played in some big-time football games. Do offensive coordinators take into account, like, the early nerves that come in maybe your first Super Bowl start to maybe, script a couple of layup throws or something to calm the nerves before you start to attack downfield?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, in general, oftentimes, when you script plays out, it has some version of that in mind, whether it is managing, quarterback, like you said, kind of quarterback jitters or experience, or managing maybe like just to see what the defense is going to do. You kind of call plays that give you lots of outs, right? And so you might have 2 plays called at the line of scrimmage. You might have more screen plays, things like that, to make sure that you make kind of the start of the game as smooth as possible.
Hey, Alex, for these coaches, and of course both offensive coaches, Clint Kubiak and especially Josh McDaniels, they have so much experience. But when you're putting together a game plan, are there plays that are installed throughout the course of the week? Are there any late add-ins? How does that install work when you're getting ready for a big game? How does that process play out?
Well, if it's if the offense and the coordinator are doing their job, there shouldn't be any late add-ins past Monday or Tuesday. You game plan over the weekend, and you've already maybe kind of advanced scout, and obviously they have an extra week with the Super Bowl, so you would probably have everything in at this point. But as far as what you put in, how game plans happen throughout the season, yeah, you are constantly evolving what you are doing kind of around typically what's a 7-day install for most playbooks. So you have your kind of base 7-day install, and then you add and subtract around that each week based on what you're seeing and from other teams and, what your personnel are doing well. So, there's definitely an involvement, and it changes week to week with the core of what you're doing staying relatively similar.
I was talking with Hugh Millen earlier on the show, and he thinks that there's going to be opportunities for the Patriots with that Seahawks offensive line, particularly at their guard positions, with what they're able to do on their interior. What are your thoughts on the job that the Patriots defensive front has done, especially over the last few games, with the pressure they've been able to create and the way they've shut down the run?
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots in general defensively in the playoffs have been fantastic, right? Obviously, they were really high scoring during the season, which, may have had more to do with, the teams are playing in their division and things like that. But then they get to the playoffs and you see the defense playing really well. And, when you got a guy, say, like Milton Williams that has experience in the Super Bowl with the Eagles, he's been fantastic when he's healthy for the Patriots this season. He's a real difference maker. They can really cause some problems. I mean, that entire defensive line could cause some problems for, a Seahawks offensive line that is solid and has certainly been better this season. But, when the Seahawks offense has struggled, it has been about that offensive line.
Mike Vrabel has done a heck of a job with the Patriots. He was great at Tennessee. I really have a lot of respect for him. Have you ever had a chance to spend any time around Mike Vrabel? If so, I'd like to know about that. But also, what are your thoughts on the job he's done with the Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, haven't spent time around him. Again, it's been obviously very outside looking in and from third-party folks. And, it's incredibly impressive. I mean, the record speaks for itself from last year to this year, the outcomes this year. But I even felt like when he was in Tennessee, he was doing some really good things with probably not the best roster in all reality, right? And not consistently, at least. And so, I was surprised when, the Titans moved on from him. Obviously, that was probably a mistake. But at the same time, him getting the opportunity to come back to New England and, essentially kind of revive the tradition that he helped build in their most recent dynasties, I think it's really special. And, the one thing I would say about the NFL and NFL coaches is that, it's not like college, right, where you have, even though guys in college are making money now, they're still kids. and there's typically still an adult in the room when it comes to the coaching staff, right? And so there is always that element of kind of seniority to some degree. When you're in the NFL, these are relatively peers, and you're dealing with grown men that have families and that have, that are elite, obviously athletes and all the things that go with that. And so as a coach, you have to be able to really command that room, right? And I think oftentimes in the NFL, you see when coaches don't make it, it's not because of scheme. It's not because of, right, what they know about ball. Oftentimes it's their ability to handle that dynamic. And Mike Vrabel is clearly elite in that regard.
No question about it. They've really struggled over the last month plus. Their left tackle, Will Campbell's, had some issues. What are some different ways that you can protect a left tackle who's struggling to give the quarterback time and to make sure that the plays don't get blown up? How do you help a left tackle out without completely compromising your offense and ability to attack?
Yeah, a couple different ways. You can, you can certainly change and adjust play calling so that you're staying ahead of the chains. Like you really just want to avoid third and long, right? And or drop back pass on downs like first down. So you're trying to, throw screens, run the football, quick passing game as much as you can. When you take shots, you're hoping that they're protected with play action, and you've got extra guys, whether it be tight ends or fullbacks in there that can assist. And then in general, if you do get in some of those drop back pass scenarios, you utilize the tight end and the running backs to maybe chip on them a little bit. You find ways to send the protection that way. So maybe there's an extra lineman that can be involved. There's plenty of ways to do it. You just remember that you're sacrificing, right, somewhere else down the line, down the food chain of offense.
Yeah.
When you're trying to protect one player. And that would be, I would imagine, the challenge for Josh McDaniels as he's thinking about game planning.
When you were down in Houston after being drafted, obviously the head coach, Gary Kubiak, how often did you cross paths with Clint Kubiak?
Well, he was still in college about that time at Colorado State, if I remember correctly. But more, there's a couple sons, so you would always hear about the boys. And on that team, it just so happened, I'm sure there was a connection there, obviously, but we had a ton of Colorado State athletes. Like that was like, if you were a seventh rounder or an undrafted free agent, there was a good chance you came from Colorado State, which was because Kubiak was in Denver for so long. His kids were at Colorado State. He knew the coaching staff up there. So oftentimes a lot of our kind of like extra depth players came from Colorado State. So kind of knew him peripherally from that, but not a ton when I was there in Houston, more so when he ended up kind of moving through into the NFL ranks and with Minnesota and being around Kevin O'Connell and things like that.
How much of a pleasure is it for you, Alex? Because you've worked with a lot of these young quarterbacks in the NFL today at Elite 11. And a lot of these guys you've been blown away by not just their ability on the football field, their athleticism, but the type of guys they are, their character. How much fun do you have getting a chance to watch some of these guys that you've developed a relationship with, who you respect and appreciate the way they go about their business, getting an opportunity like we're going to see with both May and Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl?
Well, you and I talk about this a lot, Chad, in that people see kind of the gladiator aspect of quarterback, right? Like there's all the things. You throw touchdowns, you make a lot of money, you're the leader of these franchises, and people obviously have high expectations for quarterbacks as people and as players, but they forget sometimes how difficult the process can be and the path can be. And very intimately, I get to see that through my work with Elite 11 and then working with these guys as they move on into the NFL. And, speaking specifically to guys, say, like Sam Darnold, who, again, he's was such a gifted player out of USC, and kind of the curse of being that good is you typically go to a bad franchise in the NFL, and he went to two of them with Carolina and the Jets. And so, he got really, in my opinion, kind of beaten down by the outside. And fortunately, he kept with his kind of internal motivation and his internal positivity, lands in a great situation in Minnesota and has effectively revived his career. But he was always a great player, right? But, people kind of lose sight of that along the way because of, outcomes and expectation. And, so I think for me, it's really special when you see the stories about Sam Darnold, guys like C.J. Stroud, who were really up and down, and then they finished in such a strong way. This season, they have a bad game at the end, and you're kind of back to square one. You just know, that those people and young men are trying to improve and get better. It's funny, a story I love to tell, and this is, fairly recent, is we're at Elite 11 this year in LA, and I'm standing there and we're evaluating quarterbacks. We're going through we're kind of working on some different things. And I turn to the guy next to me. I'm like, man, that's a good player right there. And I point to the quarterback. Guy looks at me. He's like, yeah, man, he can really spin it. And I look up and I realize it's Jared Goff. I had no idea.
Man.
He's standing right next to us. We were talking, and we were like, he was talking to somebody about ball. I'm talking. We start talking together, and then you realize, like, this is one of the best in the league, and he lives in the area, so he wanted to come out and check it out. He was an Elite 11 player, but again, it humanizes the element that a lot of people don't see, and so that's what's special for me when I see them have success, like the two guys you're going to see on Sunday have.
You know what's awesome about that? Like, certain guys throw the football and it just comes out of their hand differently. Like Jared Goff, when he sets up, that is a tight spiral flipping out of his hand.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he can snap it. There's no doubt about it. There's a reason he's played as long as he has.
Like, I remember I would go to games when I was younger, and the one player that always comes to mind in terms of one of the prettiest footballs I've ever seen come out of a guy's hand, like in warm-ups before the game, I never saw anything but a tight spiral being thrown by Warren Moon. I was like, how does that guy do that? It was beautiful, Alex. Beautiful.
He did throw a really good ball. That's very true. He could really spin it.
Oh, my gosh. Now, with Josh McDaniels, terrific offensive coordinator, and he's got a ton of playoff experience with the Patriots, and now he's getting a chance to do it again with the younger quarterback in Drake May. Like, what do you like about the way that Josh McDaniels is able to call an offense?
Well, he was really, if you think back to Josh McDaniels' trajectory, right? If you think about offensive football in the NFL right now, you almost exclusively you're talking about the Shanahan-McVay tree of people, right? Whether it's Mike McDaniel or the LaFleurs or the Kubiaks, Kevin O'Connell, like it's all the same, right? It's all the same system.
That's great.
Josh McDaniels was doing this before. Do you know what I mean? He was doing this well before those guys, and that's what's impressive to me. He was always creative. He always leaned into the run game, and he was always really ahead of his time. And I think to me, that's what stands out is that, we think of offense in this certain set right now, but McDaniels has been doing it forever.
All right. How do you see the game playing out on Sunday? How do you see it going?
Well, again, these teams are really evenly matched. Both great defenses. They've both been really productive on offense. And my knee-jerk reaction when it's like that, when you have good coach, everything seems really even, is I lean into the quarterbacks. And I think, as good as Drake May has played this year and as talented as he is, he's still a young player. He's had some struggles at times in the playoffs, and the defense has really helped him. I think Sam Darnold's experience in general really helps. I think, his ability to lean into some really electric playmakers offensively really helps. The Patriots are solid. I just don't think they have that extra star power offensively. And so it's going to be a tight game. But to me, I think that's a little bit extra that maybe Seattle needs to win this thing.
Do you think it's going to be a lower scoring game?
I think it's going to get into the 20, something like 28-24. I don't think it's going to be so low scoring. It's just, again, you're getting to, you got two good coordinators. You got good explosive offenses. The defense is going to hold up and make some plays, but, I still think there's going to be a few points scored.
All right. So what are your plans for Sunday? Are you going to watch with the kids and the wife? Or you got a party you're going to? Or I would imagine, I don't know, but I'm going to predict that Alex Brink, when he's watching a big game, does not want distractions around him. That'd be my guess.
It's so funny that you say that. My wife, Joni, and I were just talking about this because I think last year I finally cued her in on the fact that I don't like watching the Super Bowl with other people around because I never get to watch the game. And she was kind of like, oh, well, we don't have to go anywhere, And so we didn't last year. And then this year, I more so was just trying to plan my weekend out. I was like, hey, what, do we have plans for the Super Bowl on Sunday? She's like, well, don't you just want to watch the game by yourself? And I was like, or like with the kids? I was like, yeah, I actually do, for sure. And my oldest son, Xander, who will be 6 on February 11th, he is very into football. He believes the Patriots are going to win. He loves him some Drake May. He's been cheering for him all year.
Oh, I love that.
So this is a big game for him, so I want to be able to support him in that endeavor.
Do you know what's great about that is like my favorite memories, some of my favorite memories are being able to sit down and watch a big Bronco game with my dad. And so you get to share that with your son, Xander. Like, that is the best, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty fired up for it. Thank you.
And I love that your wife understands where you're at and respects the fact that you don't want a lot of distractions when you're trying to watch a big game. I love that.
Yeah, and she likes ball too, so like she's kind of the same way to some degree, you know. She's like she'd be happy to hang out and watch the football game as well.
Well, dude, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the time. Enjoy the game, and I can't wait to get your reaction after it plays out on Sunday next week.
Dude, I appreciate it. Enjoy the game. Thank you.
You got it. There's Alex Brink. Well, that didn't suck, man. Alex Brink is awesome. One of the really good people in the biz. And the great thing is he knows these quarterbacks, you know, from Elite 11. So he's familiar with Drake May. He's familiar with Sam Darnold. He knows them and has great insight. Well, this day is progressing very nicely. Michael Holton coming in the studio at 5:20. That doesn't suck. Alex Brink didn't suck. And neither did Hugh Millen, who provided me with one of the greatest memories as a Bronco fan, backing up John Elway. And he's right. You can put Elway up against any of the number ones taken in any NFL draft, and Elway would be selected ahead of that player. That's how good he was. I had some nonsense. Boy, it's going to kill me. I know I'm getting older. There were some young heads on social media yesterday claiming that Aaron Rodgers is a better all-time quarterback than John Elway. It's absolute rubbish, all right? I respect Aaron Rodgers. I like Aaron Rodgers. Great quarterback, incredible physical tools, but he does not sniff John Elway. Not even close. And it's not as simple as just looking at the numbers and saying, this guy did that guy did that. No. No, it's not. I will go to my grave defending the terrific Larry Bird, Larry Legend, and John Elway, the Duke. That is one of the missions that the Lord has given me, and I'm going to continue to carry it out. All right, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number if you want to jump on board. You can also reach out to me on the Rip City Radio text line at 88528. Tomorrow's the NBA trade deadline. Sean Hyken in studio, Chris Burkhardt in studio, and we'll see what shakes out over the next 18 hours or so. But I appreciate your time. Brendan Slaughter is with me, and the Blazers in the midst of a horrendous 6-game losing streak. That game last night was gross. That's all. They did not put up a good effort last night. They hit a bunch of threes in the first quarter, which masked the other issues that were going on. But the defense was just like, are you kidding me? I was not pleased with the effort last night. And Donovan Clean got roasted once again. If it wasn't bad enough to see Jarrett Williams going Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on him, then Mark Williams last night had another big night. Drop coverage, I got a double barrel. I got a couple of salutes for the drop coverage. Not very good. And the Suns did a good job of exploiting it without Devin Booker on the floor. And who was his name? Colin Gillespie. Didn't really know much about him. Had a chance to watch him. That's a darn good basketball player. 8 of 14 from 3, 30 points, which I think may have been a career high to go along with 10 assists. Very annoying. I don't mind if a big-time star comes in and rips the Blazers, right? I can live with that. It's these dudes that I'm not as familiar with having career nights. It just drives me insane. Colin, who? Well, he's now a star. But the Blazers just need to get their guys on the floor together, get past the stupid deadline. Because the deadline, for us, it's fun. Because, like, yeah, dude, make moves, do this, do that. Player movement, it's awesome. But for the players, it's a grip session. They don't know where they're going, where they're going to end up, and there's rumors. And it's not a good thing. So once we get past that, and Denny Avdia has a chance to get back to being his normal self, I mean, what happens when you carry a franchise? Well, your back's going to be sore. So he needs a little bit more of a breather. He'll be fine. I just want to see this group and Scoot Henderson going to be back probably tomorrow. And if not, definitely Saturday. So we get the season debut of Scoot. We get the guys back in the fold, and we get a chance to see them have, 28 to 30 games together and play some good basketball. All right, Michael Holton coming up in the studio at 5:20. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday. I worked out today. I'm feeling pretty good. I got the endorphin flow. My blood is flowing properly. I mean, it's just a good day. And the sun is shining. But frankly, there's nothing that I don't like about today. I'm still annoyed that the Patriots and Seahawks are in the Super Bowl, but I'm like everyone else. I'm a fan of another team. What can I say? I just wish that my team wouldn't have lost their starting quarterback for the AFC title game. It's like, are you flipping kidding me? And that's every once in a while I think about that and it makes me mad. It's like, dang it, because they would have won that game with Bo. Oh, my gosh. And there's no guarantee they're going to get back there either. That's the part that sucks. All right, we'll come back. Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, what's up? I just got off the phone. I made a quick phone call to my boy Steve. He's my best friend. He lives down in Vegas. So I don't know if you can relate to this. Maybe you've got a friend like this or maybe a family member. But my boy Steve is a little bit older by about 10 years. So I'm 50. He's like 60, right? So there's like a 10-year gap. Well, he's not as technologically advanced as someone like I am. And heck, even my daughter's more advanced than I am because, she's been using technology ever since she was knee-high, right? Well, obviously, I've been working in an industry where technology is always changing. And, I've had, a phone and smartphones and different computers and stuff. So I'm much more accustomed to it. But my boy, Steve, now he worked for a communications company for years and he retired several years ago. And so he picked up a side gig because he didn't want all the free time. But anyways, the only cell phone he ever had was through his company that they had paid for. And he didn't understand the significance of some of the devices that he gave them, right? That the company gave him. And he never had to pay for a cell phone. He had the same phone number forever. But when he retired, he called me up one day. He's like, dude, I'm gripping. I'm like, about what? He's like, well, I got to turn in my phone. And I've never had a phone plan or anything. And he said, I want the same phone number. I don't know what to do. And so I said, bruh, let me take care of you. I'll just put you on my phone plan and we can get your number transferred over. And then it'll be easy. And it's only going to cost you, $50 a month or whatever the price was to add a line, right? And so he got hooked up with an S9, and this is like 8 years ago when I added him to my plan. And so he's had the S9 now for 8 years. S9. Like that's a long time ago and many versions of the phone ago, right? S9. And so finally he hit me up last week. He was like, dude, I don't think my phone battery's not holding a charge. I'm not sure. I got to get home and check it out. Well, when I heard that, I immediately was like, I'm not going to give him an option. I went straight over to T-Mobile after I got off work, left the station, and just got him a new phone. Now, I didn't go hog wild. I got an A17. One, because by doing the replacement, I'd get the phone for free, so it wouldn't cost him anything. And the A17 was a dramatic leap from the S9, but not so dramatic that it wouldn't just flip his dome. Because I know what I'm dealing with here. It's like he's going to grip about any type of, getting used to that or how this works or whatever, right? So anyways, I got the phone, got him a case, got everything he needed. Even got him one of the little AC to C adapters for the phone so he could still use his earbuds, his wired earbuds. Because they changed the adapter, so you had to get the C fits in there now when you want to listen to music or whatever. So I shipped everything down to him, and of course when I called him, I said, dude, because he hit me back when I was still at T-Mobile. When I went over to get his phone, he goes, oh no, it's not the phone. He goes, it was the portable charger. It wasn't working, but everything's fine. I said, well, don't worry about it because I'm getting you a new phone. He goes, no, and I said, dude, relax, I got you. We got to do this. You've had the S9 for too long. It's time. This is inevitable. So I shipped it all to him, and then he went to the phone store today, the T-Mobile spot, and I said, you just take it in and tell him you need to transfer everything over, and tell him that, just give him the number. They'll activate the phone. They'll transfer everything over. And so he went through the process today. So I called him to see how it went, and it's a bit of a grip session. He was asking me how do I turn the phone off? And so I sent him the instruction on that because it's one of those deals where with the new phone, you got to hold the volume button and the middle button. You know the deal. Anyways, but it's like not as bad as mom and dad when they got they're like rocking S25s now. Way too much of a phone. My mom is like lost. So I'm like, I'm not smart and I can't really build anything, but I can provide assistance for them with the technology. So there you have it. That's where I'm at. My dad was going through the rigmarole. Like he was gripping. I'm back to AT&T. I got to do this. I got to do that. So I was assisting him. And I reminded him not to buy the generic nonsense, phone protector case. I said, go OtterBox. You think you're doing the right thing by going cheap, but you don't get the protection. You don't get the warranty. It's just a bad idea. So he went OtterBox. I was proud of him. But I got to remind him of those things, right? There you have it. He tried one of those off-brands once for like the phone companies, where they tell you that it's the service is just as good for like a fraction of the cost, and of course it was garbage. So we went back to AT&T. There you have it. We've all been there though, right? Like the one family member or friend that has that is just a full grip session when it comes to the technology. There you have it. And, of course, I always back up my phone. Like most of the people I know, like I just every once in a while I take everything on my phone and I transfer it to my computer and then to my external drive because I don't want my phone being slowed down by a bunch of pictures and stuff. So I've got different folders where I save pictures, and I keep a couple of pictures on my phone, but I don't want it to be run down. And I always delete my text messages. But most people I know that they don't delete the darn thing. My dad's got like 1 billion pictures on his phone, as did my boy Steve. Text messages that they've had for like decades. It's like it's okay to delete those once in a while. Anywho, that's the latest. So it worked out. And I'm also, because for years he was sending me checks. Well, every 3 months, because I'm like, dude, I don't care about the $50. You're on my plan. I'm fine. But of course, for him, he's like, no, man, I got to take care of it. I'm like, fine, just every 3 months, send me, the average. So every 3 months, I get a $165 check in the mail. And finally, when I was down there visiting once in Vegas, I'm like, dude, what are you sending me checks for? Writing checks is absurd. What are you, like 90? You like the granny in the grocery line? Come on now. So I turned him on to Venmo. And, of course, he was gripping. He's like, dude, I don't want the government. He started going conspiracy theory. I was like, dude, just trust me on this. So I got him hooked up on Venmo. And so now he thinks it's genius that he can send me money every 3 months for his phone bill, and then it comes directly out of his checking account. Like he's blown away by the whole idea of Venmo and being able to send money like that. And so there you have it. I just think that stuff's funny. But my parents, anytime I get a phone call now, I know why my mom's calling because she's trying to figure something out. And my boy Brendan just sent me a text. Hey, my oldest text is from 2016. Of course it is. Brendan's he probably hasn't deleted a text in like 2 decades. But I'm a weirdo too. I've been with the same phone company for over 26 years. When I went into the phone shop the other night, the guy's like, "You've been with us for 26 years? Oh my God!" That's what he said. I'm loyal. What can I say? I'm a loyal guy. All right, even when I shouldn't be. But I just don't like switching around and stuff. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Michael Holton is coming up at 5:20. Friday, pump for Friday because I'm going to be down at Spirit Mountain. And Justin Ballinger, the sportsbook manager, is going to come on, and we'll do a full-on handicap of the game. I can't wait to get his take on the money movement and how that's looking. And then Brian Noel, Fox Sports Radio, going to join us as well. All right, you can jump on board 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, what's up, my friends? We got the NBA trade deadline coming up tomorrow. You can join the Rip City Drive from 3 until 6. Chris Burkhardt and Sean Hike, and our Trailblazer Insider, will join me in studio for all the latest around the league and right here in Rip City. The big news today, the Mavs have sent Anthony Davis and guards Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum to the Wizards in exchange for Chris Middleton and others. Anthony Davis played 29 games for the Mavericks in the last year. Luka Doncic has 29 games with the Lakers this year with 30 or more points. Trailblazers, in the middle of a 6-game slide, they get a couple of days off after last night's loss. They host the Grizzlies at Moda Center in back-to-back games on Friday and Saturday. Our coverage Friday will kick off at 5 with Blazers Game Day, hosted by Chris Burkhardt. Tip-off at 7 on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. The line for Super Bowl 60, Hawks still a 4.5-point favorite over the Patriots. Yeah, crank this to the max, Brendan. Crank it. Yeah, Easy Lover with Phil Collins, one of my all-time faves, and Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind, and Fire. This is one of those songs where I remember where I was at the first time I heard it, and I just couldn't believe how good it sounded to my ears. Love the video, love the song. I love both artists. Sensational. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Chris Burkhardt and Sean Hike both going to join me in studio tomorrow for NBA trade deadline. Looking forward to that as we get a chance to see what may or may not take place between now and tomorrow with the Trailblazers and everything else that's going on around the league. Anthony Davis has been shipped away from the Mavericks to the Wizards. And I think it's pretty obvious that now, we knew it when it went down. There were a couple of morons who tried to say that it was a good idea or that somehow the Mavericks won the trade when they dealt Luka Doncic to the Lakers and got nothing in return. One of the dumbest things I've ever seen in sports, to the point where no one thought it was real because it was so bad. 29 games played for the Mavs in the year, and Luka this year with the Lakers, 29 games of 30 or more. Luka Doncic is awesome, and not only that, but he's gotten himself into better shape. He's been ultra productive, and now the Lakers have a massive superstar to build around as they continue to move into the future. You know what? You know how you move off LeBron? You make a sweet deal for Luka Doncic, and then you've got your next superstar. Gosh, the Mavericks are dumb. Nico Harrison's a moron. That was beyond bad. I remember asking Gavin Dawson when he joined me after that deal went down, where do you think this trade's going to rank as we move into the future and look back? He's like, it's going to be the worst. Yeah, obviously. We knew it then and we know it now. You don't trade Luka Doncic ever. And if you, for some reason, have to do it, then you open it up to a bidding war to make sure that you get as many first-round assets as you possibly can moving forward so you have something to rebuild your team with. You don't trade him for an aging, often injured star like Anthony Davis and then say that it's about defense. Oh, it's so dumb. Anyways, the Trailblazers, I love where they sit right now because they've got assets that they've accumulated, and Joe Cronin's done a heck of a job there. Those Milwaukee picks are looking incredibly valuable right now. And there's no urgency. They don't have to do anything right now, today, or tomorrow by the deadline. They're under the luxury tax. They're sitting there with assets. They can sit back and be patient. They don't have to force anything. And that's the great place to be, because when teams know you have to make a move and that you're desperate, you never get a fair return. You don't get the value back. And so Joe Cronin can sit and be patient, remain opportunistic, and if the right opportunity presents itself to improve the team, then you do it. Now, with Giannis, I haven't talked a lot about it because I've never thought that it was legitimate in terms of Giannis winding up in Portland. I think the biggest thing would be this. One, Giannis is a great player. Love him. Terrific. But he's also an aging superstar. So I don't know how many more years of prime Giannis you get, especially with some of the calf issues we've seen pop up. And you're going to have to give up a lot to get him. Picks and players. And I'm just not a big fan of doing that for an aging superstar when if you add him to the roster, you're not a clear-cut title favorite with the Western Conference. So, and then on top of that, the reason why I've never thought it would get done is because Giannis, in order to make a deal like that of that magnitude and to give up that much, you'd have to get him to agree to re-sign an extension. And I just don't think that's going to happen. From the people I've spoken with, if a deal gets done before the deadline, then he would have to look long and hard at a place like New York or a place like Miami. Giannis does not 100% want to leave Milwaukee. Like Dame, his heart's in Milwaukee. He loves it there. But he also knows that in order to compete, he's probably going to have to make a move. So he's got to think long and hard about where that's going to be, because what he doesn't want is to make a move like Dame did, wind up in a spot that it doesn't work out, and you're miserable. And as it was put to me, Chad, we all have to make decisions at times in our life where you write everything down on a sheet of paper. And on paper, it looks like the right move, but in reality, you turn out to be miserable in a year or so down the road. So that's where we're at. But I like where the Blazers are at. Most importantly for the Blazers, they just need to get their guys healthy and available so we can get an extended stretch over the final 2 months of the season where we get a chance to see these guys play. Scoot Henderson is going to make his return this weekend. My guess will be Friday. If not, that it will be Saturday. Denny Avdia could come back at any time, although I'm more in favor of keeping Denny out for a couple more games. Because you got the All-Star break coming up. I might rest him against Memphis, and that team's a disaster anyways. Rest him against Memphis. Consider playing him against Philly, but at least get him one game in before the All-Star break. And then he can participate in the All-Star game and come back for the stretch run rested with the back feeling much better. Because the one thing that jumped out at me last night, and we've seen this without Denny on the floor, and I think a lot of people they don't want to say it, but here's the reality. This team's not going to go anywhere without Denny. And you could see it last night on offense that without him, they don't have an identity because he's so vital to everything they do, the way he handles the rock, the way he's able to make decisions, the way he facilitates, the way he's able to attack the paint, the rim, and get to the foul line. Like, there's basically nothing that Denny doesn't do for this team right now. I love his physicality. Plus, he's doing a heck of a job defensively. But they looked like they were going through an identity crisis without him on the floor last night. Turnover issues with Grant, who had 3, but also Drew Holiday, who had 5 last night. Didn't like the way he played. And the last 2 games against Cleveland and last night against Phoenix, Donovan Clingan getting, smoked from 2 centers who took advantage of him. And the Blazers, because of, and this is what the issue is with some of these more traditional bigs, they're limited in how much space they can cover. So they play drop coverage, and that sometimes will put guys in a bad position. And the Suns did a good job of exploiting it. I just didn't like the defensive effort last night. I didn't think the intensity was there. Clearly not the execution, but just not a good game. But the Blazers need their guys back, namely Denny. I did like what I saw from Vic Krejci, this sharpshooter they brought in from Atlanta. He just needs some more time to get more familiar with, the type of plays they're running, where he needs to be, the defensive attack. And once he gets comfortable, he's going to be fine because he can flat out shoot. He knows how to get to a spot. He can elevate, get his shot up. He's long. He's going to be a great addition. I don't doubt that whatsoever. So that's where the Blazers are at. Frustrating with the 6-game losing streak, but plenty of time left. And once they get all their guys, all their horses, and, Tiago Splitter's got options, they're going to be able to play more of their style of basketball. Now, the Super Bowl's coming up on Sunday. We heard from Hugh Millen. He likes the Seahawks in a close one, although he thinks the Patriots are going to have opportunities. And Alex Brink thought it's the same way, too. Close game. 2 evenly matched teams. I'm just surprised at how many Seahawks fans I have talked to over the last week and a half who are, well, they're already counting this as a victory. They've already got it checked off. Like, here comes Super Bowl number 2. We got it. And I agree that the Seahawks have the advantages here. And I'll share my prediction on Friday, but New England's going to present some challenges. Love their defensive front and what they've been able to do in the front seven. Their coaching is exceptional between Mike Vrabel, who's one of the best. He's also a terrific game manager. And then don't forget about Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels, head coach, awful. Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, sensational. And he's done a great job with Drake May. And those guys have a ton of experience. And so the Seahawks have got to make sure that they are dialed in. These games that we've seen in the Super Bowl can often come down to turnovers and then special teams. And the Hawks, man, they can attack you in so many different ways. Versatile football team. I love both of the stories of the quarterbacks with Drake May, young guy who's in the MVP conversation, and then, of course, the journeyman Sam Darnold, who has put together back-to-back terrific years. And over the last few seasons, he has been a flat-out winner. So I'm a big fan of Darnold. I want to see him do well. And I think for the Seahawks, what impresses me the most with Mike McDonald is how quickly he got things, laying a foundation and playing his brand of football. Physical on defense. And they're fast. They come after you. And on offense, if they can just find that balance between the run and the pass and give Darnold a chance to get off and play action, they're going to have an opportunity to make plays. So I'm excited about the matchup. I think it's a good game. Right now, the line remains at 4.5. Seattle is favored. Total at 45.5. And should be one heck of a game. Should be one heck of a game. So if you want to jump on board and share your prediction, 503-248-0620. That is the telephone number. And then NBA trade deadline show tomorrow with Chris Burkhardt and Sean Hyken. Michael Holton's going to join me in studio coming up next, and we'll get his take on what he saw. I want to get his take on the drop coverage, what Portland can do to adjust, because now you know teams are going to attack Klingon when he's out there on the floor. I was impressed with Robert Williams' effort last night. Blazers have done a great job of getting him healthy and, you know, playing the right way, and they've limited his minutes to make sure his body stays right, but, man, he has been good. And his legs look fresh, and he's got some athleticism. Very productive player. Oh, by the way, update. So I had Brooke Olsendam on the last couple of days. All of her beanies sold out in just a matter of like 2 hours. So props to Rip City for their efforts. Every single beanie that was inside the arena last night was bought. That didn't take long. So her efforts with Brooke Heart, the people stepping up and doing what they do, I love to see it. But Brooke, you know, it means a lot to her. 10 days after she was married, her husband dropped dead at the age of 27. Didn't realize he had heart issues. And so she has been inspired to go out there and make a difference with, you know, her foundation. So props to you who reached out to get one of the beanies. It's awesome. All right, we'll come back. Michael Holton going to join me in studio. Holton on Hoops. And trade deadline's coming up tomorrow. Love talking with Michael Holton. He'll join us next in studio here on the Rip City Drive. All right, I'm pumped, man. He's back. Hold on, Hoops. Michael Holton, former Trailblazer, current radio and television analyst in the studio. My brother, good to see you.
Hey, good to be seen. Good to be back in the studio. I feel like we've been hit or miss for the last few weeks.
I know it's been a busy time of the sports calendar, but man, now we can settle in after the Super Bowl and really get focused on basketball. But I'm jealous. You're going to be down at All-Star Game for it's going to be at Intuit Dome. I have not been at Intuit Dome. I know you have. How awesome is that arena?
It's awesome. It is. It's next level. I mean, when you just look around and the seats and all the buttons and bells and whistles and massage chairs and it's just all kind of stuff. Like, what
the
is
Clippers
this?
have come a long way from the LA Sports Arena.
Oh my goodness, have they come a long way?
All right, you got to help me with this because it's starting to drive me crazy around the league. Drop coverage. I don't like it. It never seems to work. And last night, the Suns really took advantage of the Trailblazers' drop coverage. So give me the background on that. What's up?
Well, this is the way it was explained to me by kind of a data analytics type guy. We were having this conversation philosophically about drop coverage because I've got some strong feelings about it too. And he asked me if I knew the origins of drop coverage. I'm like, no. And he explained it to me this way. Now, this is one person's opinion. But when you think about it and you hear me say this, it's going to make sense.
Yeah.
Drop coverage apparently was invented by Tom Thibodeau when he was Doc Rivers' assistant in Boston. And he invented it for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett because they wouldn't get to the point of the screen. They just lazy. They just wouldn't get to the point of the screen, and Thibodeau's in charge of the defense. And so he manufactured an out for them, and it was drop coverage. They could not have to get to the point of the screen. They would track the data and the percentages. And they won a championship that year.
Yeah.
And because it's a copycat league, people thought, oh, that's the secret sauce to their championship, drop coverage. And then drop coverage was born, and everybody emulates it and does it. But at its sheer definition, it's an allowance for a big to not get to the point of the screen.
Yeah. So when teams see drop coverage, what are the most effective ways for them to attack it?
Well, I mean, I just look at it from the basketball purist standpoint. You're talking about the best players in the world coming off a screen with a clean look at 15 feet. I mean.
And we saw a number of like 12 to 15-foot floaters in the lane last night that were easy buckets.
Yeah, and so it ends up putting the big on an island. So the big is in no man's land, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. It's not a criticism of anything, anybody, any coach. But the big is in no man's land. He's not at the point of the screen, so the ball handler doesn't have to navigate a big. He's not at the rim, so oftentimes the center that sets the screen that rolls is a lob threat still.
Yeah.
Even if you're in drop coverage.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So when you coached, what was your preferred method of defending the pick and roll?
Well, in my coaching days, there was no drop coverage.
Okay.
It wasn't even in your playbook. So bigs got to the point of the screen, and they either hedged or show and recover. And then there's a whole nuance to that. If they show, then the defensive guard goes underneath them, and then you pre-rotate to take away the roll, and then you go back. I mean, it involves all five defenders when the big shows at the point of the screen.
Yeah.
And then there's 6 ways you can play the pick and roll. You can show, which is help and recover. You can trap. It's really complicated.
Yeah.
But it's a part of the game where you've got the best players in the world with the basketball coming off a screen and either attacking the big, if he does show, or coming off clean for a look, or coming off and getting downhill and shooting the floater. To me, that's where the floater was it became popular, because you came off and you didn't want to settle for the jumper, so you kept coming downhill, and you're just reading the big. Is he going to come to me? Is he going to go back? And if he comes to me, I throw the lob. And so the whole nuance of today's NBA that was born out of drop coverage is confusing at a minimum and concerning more realistically.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how the NBA has changed over the course of time. Like, there's a lot of good more traditional type bigs in the NBA. Like, I'm a big fan of Steven Adams. We see it with Donovan Clingan. A lot of these guys around the league who are good players, but when you force them to have to defend space, it becomes an issue for him. So I don't know what you do or how you mitigate that.
Well, I mean, obviously, there's people that at far higher pay grades than mine that are trying to solve that problem, right? But you started this segment by saying, when I coached, and so I'll just kind of put my coaching hat on. If I were coaching and constructing a defense, I would prefer a big that would get to the point of the screen.
Yeah.
I just think making people play in a crowd turns up your opportunity to force turnovers or to get the ball out of the primary ball handler's hand into somebody that is less preferred or less effective. But that's just me Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah. Well, and as you pointed out to me many a times that you get guys in the NBA at this level, even a young guy like Caleb Love, you give him space and he's 10 to 12 feet away from the basket, he's going to be able to float that bad boy in.
Yeah, but, I think the data has proven that the guy coming off that screen doesn't settle for that open shot as a steady shot diet.
Yeah, that makes sense. He doesn't settle for that shot, so you're hoping that you force him into a bad look or a miss.
And you keep your big closer to the basket for rebounding and defending the paint. I think that's the secondary benefits to drop coverage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing I noticed with the Blazers last night, and this is actually a good thing because Denny Avdia has been so amazing for them, but you can tell that when he's not on the floor, there's almost like a bit of an identity crisis because he's handled the ball so much and facilitated and done a heck of a job that I think sometimes right now when he's not on the floor, guys are still trying to get a feel for how they need to operate.
Yeah, and the identity that the team has taken on this season with Denny Avdia playing so well, has morphed into him doing all of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Getting to the free throw line, getting to the paint, getting buckets, collapsing the defense, drawing double teams. And I'm not saying the team became reliant upon it, but it was so effective that it became the steady diet. It became the offensive identity of the Blazers. And then, this team has been phenomenal in terms of next man up and dealing with the injury adversity.
Yeah.
But when the injuries to somebody that is that dominant in your performance, it takes more than the next man to step up. It's almost a style of play change.
How impressive is it what Avdia is doing, knowing that teams now are actively game planning against him, and yet he's still having success getting to his spots, getting to the foul line, getting at the rim?
Yeah, it's been special. I mean, I went out on a limb and said, he's on the cusp of being a generational player.
I agree.
In terms of how he's changing the way the game is played, but by the force that he plays with and the physicality in the painted area. He's winning those battles night in and night out. And up until recently, he's been either teams have chosen not to double him or they have found difficulty doubling him. But I think it was the New York Knicks game was the first time I saw a team make a different decision, and they played him with OG Anunoby. They decided to play Denny with a player that was as physical as he is. And all of a sudden I was like, that was the first time I saw a change or an interruption of the fluidity of Denny's efficiency.
Interesting. All right. I want you to speak to this because we've talked about it a bit, but this time of year in the NBA, for everybody, not just the Blazers, you're coming up close to the All-Star break, so guys are fatigued. You've got the deadline coming up tomorrow, so rumors are circulating and guys are concerned. How much of an impact does that have on guys this time of year with everything that's going on?
I think it's the most distracting window in the NBA calendar, February. The All-Star break and the fact that the trade deadline butts up against the All-Star break within a week. So the trade deadline is just it's a cloud over everybody's head. It impacts every player in the NBA at some level, right? Either somebody on your team is being rumored to be traded or somebody's concerned or distracted or hoping somebody gets traded. I mean, there's just so much that goes into the currency of your team chemistry around trades.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, Scoot Henderson, we all expect him back sometime this weekend, Friday or Saturday against the Grizzlies. What's the best way to work a guy back into the lineup when he's been out for the entire season? How do you do that?
Well, it depends on the skill set of the player. I think Scoot Henderson I tend to divide guys into two categories: go-to players or go-get-it players. And I think Scoot Henderson is a go-get-it player.
Yeah.
A go-get-it player, you just put him out there. Scoot's going to pressure the basketball. He's going to drive the basketball. He's going to be physical. He's going to play with force. He's competitive. He's going to have a positive impact on the game. You don't have to worry that, okay, when I put Scoot in, we're going to have to run this, this, and this, or not run this, this, and this. I don't think you have to have those considerations with a player like Scoot Henderson.
And you think with his skill set, he should be able to adapt to the way that they want to play or the intentions of how they wanted to play to start the year, being fast and getting up and down.
Yeah, well, I think Scoot's skill set fits the style of play.
Yeah.
I mean, he pushes the basketball. He gets downhill. He's always in attack mode.
Yeah.
You know,
they probably devised it with him in mind, I would think.
Well, yeah, I think Scoot's skill set is certainly in line with how this team plays.
Mm-hmm. And then he can probably be on the floor. Like, you could use combinations with him and Wesley or him and Drew, because Drew doesn't need the ball in his hands all the time. Like, any combination.
It's going to be interesting to see, you know, how the team plays post-trade deadline, post-All-Star break. You know, as guys get healthy and all of a sudden you get back to depth.
Yeah.
So if we could just rewind the tape back to the beginning of the season, coming out of training camp when the team was healthy, the style of play was pressure you, make you uncomfortable, and it worked very well. I mean, Blake Wesley just got into people, 94 feet. Everybody else got up the line. And all of a sudden, they were speeding people up. And then the narrative from other guys around the league, I remember Anthony Edwards saying, boy, playing Portland's not what it used to be. That's no easy W. You know, they're no easy out. People didn't like having to face the Trailblazers when the Trailblazers had the depth at the start of the season.
You know, it's pretty crazy. I remember asking you about it when it went down, and you're like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. In his time with Dallas, Anthony Davis played 29 games. Luka's got 29 games with the Lakers this year with 30 or more. And now Davis is in Washington after being dealt. That's crazy.
Yeah, you know, the league is you know, it's asset management. You know, you know, when I look at the trade deadline, and it involves a lot of business decisions that I don't have expertise on.
Yeah.
You know, the cap, first apron, second apron. You know, there's so many things I think from a business asset management, you know, your team's timeline, you know, that it's just way over my head. I'd like to look at it and like, can the guy play? Can he not play? Is that team good or is that team bad? You know, I just like to look at the basketball part of it. You know, but at the end of the day, timelines are important, not just from a youth and experience standpoint, but it's important contractually, you know, because guys are all trying to get themselves in a position to be paid.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, the Blazers, it was nice to see Vit Krejci out there on the floor last night. I know it's just going to take him a little bit of time to get used to everything that the Blazers are trying to do, but you could tell that he's very comfortable getting to his spots on the floor.
No, I was looking at Vit Krejci, and I couldn't help but think, that profile of player kills the Blazers all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, on the other team, when you've got that wiry guy, a kind of a Reggie Miller type of guy that can move it out the ball, understand spacing, can catch and shoot, can pump fake, can drive it. You know, you try to run them off the line, and now they're a secondary playmaker. I think Vit Krejci is all of those things.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. Like, one thing I love about going to the games and seeing some of these other teams come in that I don't get to see in person all the time or watch on TV all the time. Like last night, like Colin Gillespie, I knew he was having a good year, but I see him play in person. I'm like, he's really good. He's strong. He plays under control. He's got good change of direction. He's able to finish at the rim, and he shoots a three ball at a high number.
He's bothered me good. I mean, watching him bothered me.
Yeah.
You know, because over the course of the game, you just saw his confidence go up, 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 up. And it just made me think about back in the day, right? How would you guard a guy like that? What would you do to interrupt that energy? And, you know, old school basketball, you foul him.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you foul him hard. And
yeah.
You foul him repeatedly. And you get in his head in terms of you're not going to just continue to take and make shots without facing some consequences.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because you've talked about this on the broadcast over the last couple of weeks, but the Blazers, you've encouraged the importance of getting paint touches and rotating the defense. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Well, it's the identity of this team. It's the stated identity of this team. Play with pace, drive the basketball, and collapse defenses, and then make reads. This team this season has been built philosophically on that concept. And when the team is not playing well, they're stagnant. They're standing behind the three-point line, you know, nobody's driving it, or they're just not driving it with the energy and the aggressiveness. And the defense has a lot to do with that. Defenses catch up with your execution pretty quickly in the NBA. And what I see against the Blazers, and I saw it last night, is teams just start to sag on everybody on the floor and close the gaps. And now all of a sudden, if driving the basketball is your first action to create a read and you can't drive the basketball, it makes the Blazers look like they're not playing hard.
I love it. A couple other things before you go. Number one, you and I ran into the same problem last night. I had Brooke on the show the last couple of days promoting Brooke Heart Your Heart, which is a great initiative that she does with the Trailblazers to raise awareness for the American Heart Association. So her beanies dropped last night and went on sale at Rip City Clothing. And I went by before they opened up the doors, and they were like, they turned me away. They're like, we're having a meeting, but you can come back. So I went back. They're all gone. And I was told by the merch guy that you made a couple of stops off, and you couldn't find them either.
No, so Brooke, and it is wonderful what she's doing. I think this is the 6th year, and I told her last night on the air, I said, Brooke, it is very unselfish of you, to take something that most people would keep as private, in the pain of a loss of a loved one, and turn it into an opportunity to impact so many other people's lives from a standpoint of health and wellness is phenomenal. So Brooke gave me a hat initially, and my wife took it. I went home. So I came to the arena last night. I didn't have a hat, right? And so I kept trying to get a hat too, right? Because they're really wonderful, and I want to support, the cause. And so we had 2 hats on the set. And so when the show was over, I said, Brooke, whose hats are these? And she said, mine. And I said, okay, then good. I'm going to buy one. I reached in my pocket and handed Brooke cash.
I love it. The other question I have for you is, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but I was listening to a short clip of John Sally, who one of my favorite interviews, and I watched him play throughout his whole career. He said that growing up, Dr. J was his guy. Like, who was your favorite basketball player growing up? Was it Dr. J or somebody else? Like, who did you look to and think, okay, I want to do that?
I think Dr. J was the person I admired because I remember my dad taking me to see him when he was in the ABA in the Los Angeles Sports Arena against the LA Stars.
Awesome.
And I remember as a kid, and I don't know, 6 or 8. I mean, I was a little kid, and I remember looking at him thinking, that can't really be him. He doesn't really go places where people can see him, right? I thought he had to have a body double or something. So he was larger than life to me.
Yeah.
But I was asked last night on the air by Brooke, who was my favorite teammate, or who gave me the best advice as an NBA player.
I'm trying to think of who that might be. Was it the Iceman?
It was the Iceman.
Yeah!
It was George Gervin. And
yes!
I told Brooke 2 quick stories about it. I said, first of all, I got my career high against George Gervin when I was on the Phoenix Suns and he was on San Antonio, and we were matched up against each other, and I started making shots. And he said, man, keep shooting. I ain't checking you.
But he also gave you some good advice. Like, what did he say? Like, go get yours. I'm going to get mine.
No, that's what he told Jerome Kersey. What he told me, the piece of advice that he told me that really I thought meant the most to me as a pro, based on my skill set, is when we played together in Chicago. I was on the same team with George Gervin and Michael Jordan in Chicago. And George Gervin said, look, man, just take open shots and you'll play forever. Don't drive it. Don't try to make plays off the dribble. You are a guy that defends, and just take open shots. And I let that sink in, and he spoke that into me, and I thought, that's very true. I'm a pressure release guy. You kick it to me, I just got to be, really respectful, knocking down a 10 or 15 open one. I can't break you down, and create. That wasn't my skill set. And so what I learned about that is being a pro, really at anything, but being a pro basketball player is about doing what you do best that the organization values as often as possible.
Gosh, I believe in that 100%. And I wish there are a lot of guys who have come in and out of the league who didn't have a true understanding of that, and they washed out real quick.
Well, what happens, you get in the league and you start looking around and you start trying to be other people.
Yeah.
And I had that experience too. I was in the league and I was looking at Derek Harper. I was like, man, I want to guard like that dude.
Oh.
I want to guard like that dude. Man, I want to create that. Well, that's what your off season is for.
Yeah.
You go add that to your game.
Yeah.
It's not an on-the-job training business.
Yeah, I know that. I get that a lot on the golf course where some guy will be like, well, I'm trying something else out today. I'm like, well, that's not going to go well. That's off-season work, baby.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite coach that you played for in the NBA?
Oh, in the NBA. Wow.
I know Larry Brown was your coach in college.
Yeah. Let's see, in the NBA, Okay, it wasn't Dick Harder.
I heard his practices were brutal.
No, it was probably either John McLeod or Mike Schuler. And it was probably Mike Schuler when I played here in Portland because he was clearest with me about my role. He was just clear. He said, look, when you're on the floor, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And I needed that because it was puzzling to me. The year that I played in all 82 games, I was in a 3-guard rotation with Clyde and Terry. So sometimes I would be on the floor with Clyde, and sometimes I would be on the floor with Terry. And Schuler made it really clear to me, if you're on the floor with Clyde, you play like this. If you're on the floor with Terry, you play like this. And I was like, you ain't got to tell me twice.
Isn't that great? You know, it's funny. I was talking with Joey Harrington once, and I asked him, who is your favorite coach in the NFL? And he gave me an answer I didn't expect. He said Nick Saban when I was with the Dolphins. I was like, really? Why? He said because he was honest, and he would tell you exactly what he needed from you and how he was going to use you. And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, clarity. You know, because one of the things that I picked up on when I first started looking at coaching, my first job was assistant coach at Pasadena City College. And my high school coach was the coach. And he took me to the side. He says, look, one of the things that you gotta understand about coaching is it's not true that you treat everybody the same. You know, because coaches always say that. You know, we treat everybody the same, it's fair. And he said, it's not true. He says, you treat players with the measure of respect that they have coming.
I love that.
And I thought about that, and it took me a while to let that sink in. And I thought, yeah, if I've got a fifth-year senior that's never been late and he's 5 minutes late to the bus, I'm probably not going to treat that the same way as if I got a freshman and it's his first trip and he's late to the bus.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, one last thing before you go, because we talked about it on the Blazer broadcast, but not on the show yet. What did your sweet little granddaughter say when you went to send a letter to Santa?
Oh, man, I'm sitting here thinking she's 9, and you know, I don't realize she's growing up, right? And so it's Christmas, and I told her to make her list, and she's got all these different lists, and then I said, well, let's take the list down and mail it to Santa, you know, because there was a box down at the athletic club, and I'm thinking this is really cool. I'm thinking this is really cute. I'm thinking this is really good grandfather stuff, right?
Yeah.
So she's writing it, and I hand her an envelope, and I noticed that she didn't put it in the envelope. She didn't seal the envelope, and I said, you're not going to seal the envelope? She says, no, I think you should take a picture of it first in case Santa loses it. And I realized at that point the gig was up.
Yeah. She's like, look, I know what's going on here. You better take a picture, Grandpa.
Yeah, because you all the Santa I need.
All right, Michael Holton, Hold On Hoops. I appreciate you, man. That was fun.
No, man, look forward to it.
All right. Wait, where are you going to watch Super Bowl? You going to watch it at home, or what's the plan?
Oh, at home, yeah. My wife and I have morphed into this kind of space now where she enjoys watching sports with me again.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm like, wow, right? And so she was telling me about the game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know when the game is. And so she was like, well, what are we going to do? What do you want to eat? And I said, you know, I want some wings, right? Some wings, some chips, you know.
Yeah.
So we like the Jamaican peanut sauce at what's the wing place name? Gosh, I can't remember it. Oh, it's on Interstate. They got one on the. Oh gosh, I can't think of it.
Like Wingstop?
No, not Wingstop. It's one that's unique to Portland.
Oh, Fire on the Mountain.
Fire on the Mountain, right?
They are good.
So my wife says, you know what? Let's do this year. Instead of buying the Fire on the Mountain wings, let's just buy the Fire on the Mountain sauce that you like.
And make your own wings.
And make our own wings.
That is a plan.
Yes. So
hey, you know your wife is good when she's coming up with ideas like that.
No, I mean, she loves me. She wants me home to watch the game. I'm like, wow.
All right, buddy. Enjoy the next couple of days, and we'll see you on Friday.
Looking forward to it.
Right,
Thanks for having me.
Rip City Drive continues. Big thanks to Michael Holton. Holding on hoops here on the Rip City Drive. All right, big thanks to Michael Holton. Just got a nice message from my good friend Brad Barbick, the coach. He enjoyed Michael Holton as well. He also coached one of Holton's sons at Concordia. Can you imagine having Michael Jordan and Iceman, George Gervin, as teammates when you first get in the NBA? Like, that's freaking unbelievable. But that's Holton, man. And, the cool thing about Holton is, and this has happened to me a lot, but a lot of these guys I've grown up admiring, I've become friends with. Brad Barbick, from Concordia was nice to me when I first got my start in radio. He and I have become good friends. Michael Holton came out to my Tiger Cage basketball camp in Battleground, Washington, way back in like 1988. And he put on a nice little shooting display and destroyed our best high school player. And so I get a chance to work with him. And he's got some good insight, with his experience. And he played with some big-time players during his time in the NBA. You forget, even NBA journeymen, when you see them up against, like, your best high school player on the gym doing their work, you realize how good they are. It's like, oh, that's why they're a professional. So there you have it. NBA trade deadline coming up tomorrow, and we'll see what the Blazers are able to get done. I think the big question is not whether or not Giannis is going to be in Portland, but more so, are the Blazers going to make an effort to open up space for their two-way players? There you have it. 503-248-0620. Let's see here. I just got this from JCR. He says, in reference to your guest comments on Denny today, per NBA tracking, in the 61 possessions in which OG Anunoby has been the primary defender on Denny Avdia, who ranks 13th in the NBA in points per game at 25.8, Avdia has scored a total of 12 points on 4 of 13 shooting, and has committed 5 turnovers versus just 2 assists. So, yeah, OG Anunoby, what does that tell you? Physical and a darn good defender. And that's going to be the next challenge for Denny, is dealing with more guys like that. Thanks a lot, JCR. I appreciate it, brother. Very good information. Scotty Bethune has chimed in, going back to the whole technology deal. Hey, Chad, the worst is the parents. My mom will call and leave me voicemails like, Mom, I see you called. There's no need to tell me. I know. My mom does the same thing. I don't even bother with voicemails anymore. If I see someone called, I'm not going to take the time, the whole process to get into the voicemail. I just call them back. What's up? Did you listen to the voicemail? No. Just tell me what you need right now. I'm calling you. All right. Big thanks to all of our guests. Hugh Millen from San Francisco calling into the show, talked Super Bowl. Enjoyed my conversation with Alex Brink, former Washington State Cougar, and Michael Holton. Big thanks to Brendan Slaughter. Tomorrow, Chris Burkhardt and Brendan Slaughter and Sean Hyken, our Trailblazer Insider, in studio for the NBA trade deadline. Show kicks off at 3. Be here or be nowhere.